Welcome to Remember 64, where this week we're creeping around with Scooby and the gang.
Ree!
Was that? I know that was supposed to be Scooby, but I think it was a horse. Was it a horse?
Yeah, it totally malfunctioned.
Welcome to the show, everyone. My name is David Petrangelo, and I'm sneaking my way through this museum, but don't you worry, I'm no thief. Nope, instead, I'm going to take my time playing around with these somehow live dinosaur displays, and then maybe I'll stop in for a snack at the kitchen. Ooh, this place has all the fixins for a ginormous sandwich. Hell yeah, Scoobs, thanks for helping. Here's a cookie, but that is all you get, dog. Don't eat too many, okay? Because I'm not going to pick up your poop for you. You can practically talk, so you can also clean up after yourself. Wait, after all that, did we save the day? Cool beans, gang. Way to go.
And I'm Jiggy Lookback. I am so ready for one of those gigantic Sammys, so you better make two. One for you, one for me. Scooby gets none. And all these items that we're finding, I'm going to build the most elaborate Home Alone-esque style trap. No matter how inconsequential or small the item is, a glue stick, a pebble, a box of screws, not even screws, bolts without the actual screw part, so it's just the little socket, the little, you know what I'm talking about?
Just the piece at the top, just the head.
Just the piece at the top, the head, the little thing that you turn and you screw it on. It's completely useless to most. But to my Kevin McAllister brain, I can use that. And also, I don't need to see anything with my glasses. I see just fine without them.
Oh, everybody, if you have not figured it out just yet, we are talking about, yes, it is a Scooby-Doo game. We did reference Scooby, for sure. Scooby-Doo and the classic Creep Capers. I continually get that name wrong. I don't know if it's
a hard name.
It's a hard name.
It's a hard name.
Purposely a tongue twister.
If you say the full title, technically it's Cartoon Network's Scooby-Doo Classic Creep Capers. It's a very long title.
Well, I'm glad one of us did it because I was not going to, and I'll probably also not going to remember. So this Scooby-Doo game is something that we set up. Oh, there you go. If you're looking at the video version,
whoa.
Jiggy's got the actual cart right in front. It's a black one too. I love the different
a black one.
Cartridges on the 64. Those are always a lot of fun. Obviously, Donkey Kong has that. There's versions of that for the Zelda games. Like, there's something about it, right? Because the vast majority of everything before that, like in the SNES and a couple of games in the NES, all the SNES was pretty much all gray. There's a couple black ones here and there. Like I think Killer Instinct had that and stuff. But on the 64, I don't know what it is. Something about the color, just it's maybe the simplicity of the cartridge or something. I like the way the colors look with that simpler
it's
design.
A cool thing. It's a cool thing they didn't do too often. Like most cartridges were gray, right? Yeah. And even some cartridges that came in colors only came in colors for a while, and then they swapped out to gray cartridges. Maybe that's just the color they come in general, like that plastic, so they didn't have to paint it.
Yeah.
But it always felt more premium and more special when a game did come in a color. Scooby-Doo coming in blacks is pretty cool. I will say though, I think probably I like the greens personally, like Rayman 2. Is it Small Soldiers or is that the movie? I can't. The Green Army Men games.
Yes, it's an Army Men.
Army Men games,
which is exactly the
green,
type of green
cool.
that it is, right? On both of those, it's that perfect sort of like army pine green, like pine cone, whatever, Christmassy green.
Yeah,
that's kind of what it feels
like. I love
like.
that stuff.
Yeah,
but Pokemon Stadium 2 is a really cool one if you haven't seen that one, because the cartridge is half gold. Oh. It's half gold, half silver. Pokemon Stadium 2. Sorry, I don't know if I said 2. The second one. So the front is gold and sparkly, and the back is silver and sparkly, and it's pretty cool.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I think I've seen
Yeah.
pictures and I just assumed it was like someone like modded it themselves or something like that.
No, it's just the way it is.
Because
Definitely
I never
cool.
really played two. I only played the first one. So I don't think I
Well,
knew any
two is
friends
like
had
the
it.
first one, except
Next gen.
better because it's got more stuff.
Yeah. It's
That's
just
pretty much it.
new Pokemon and a couple years later,
Yep.
and that's kind of
Yep.
it. Yeah. One of the reasons why we're going back and talking about this, and I say going back, is because as of this recording, a couple weeks ago, we had a live stream of us both playing through this Scooby-Doo game. A little bit of a race, some small competition of who could
Totally
complete
smoked
sort of.
everyone.
Yeah, well,
Me.
you just destroyed, the whole
I
thing.
was flying through this game, except for the. Okay, to be fair, I think we were pretty neck and neck for a while,
So
except for the very
yeah,
first one.
yeah.
The very first one, the What a Night for a Night, which we'll get into the chapters and stuff, but that very first one, I took a major lead and I stopped and waited for everyone because but to be fair on that one, and I should rightfully wait, I've played this game and this is one of those games that I believe you need a controller pack to save.
Oh, I
So
see.
it's either a
Okay.
controller pack or you have to enter a password. I don't remember. But I played the What a Night for a Night like a billion times.
One of
And
those.
the others
Yeah.
I hadn't really
Right.
because I just always restarted the game.
Like you do with games like this, where like there isn't a set, like you said, if the save stuff is a little bit more complicated,
Mm-hmm.
or you just don't have those devices when you were younger and stuff, completely makes sense. I mean, think about, I mean, if you think about, just like the original Mario, for example, if anyone had that on NES or even on SNES, and what you didn't save, or you couldn't get through certain it's just like an arcade style approach, right? Because you couldn't save. Instead of putting quarters in,
Right.
you just got to turn the power off, right? So
Yep, exactly right.
and 100%, if I had this game and didn't have anything to save it with, and my parents walked in the basement and noticed that the little red light on the 64 was still turned on overnight, that thing would be turned off by the time I woke up, because it'd be like, you're wasting power. Like, there's no way. It wouldn't have survived a night in my house, so it wouldn't have happened.
The classic parent thing. Man,
Classic
don't even get me
parents.
started. Unlocking Mewtwo on my Nintendo GameCube in Smash Bros.
Ooh.
Melee. I had my GameCube running for like 24 hours or 48 hours straight. I can't remember what it was. It was something stupid. Infinite stock, just let it run. Power, in my kid mind, electricity was infinite.
Oh,
As it should
100%.
be.
100%.
As it should be.
But when you really think about it, when you really like, okay, we're talking like old people here, but when you really think about it, like a 64 or some older console like this being on for an extra, let's say 7 hours, 9 hours or something, what's it going to cost you? A couple bucks?
Gotta save my 3 watts of power on my energy bill.
It's going to cost you a couple bucks, and it's going to be worth it because you get to crack the case with Scoob and the gang. Like, come on.
Yeah,
that's worth it.
exactly.
Yeah. Or
It's
get
for
your
the
Mewtwo.
kids, Mom.
It's for
It's for those meddling kids.
which is also us, apparently. So
Yes.
yeah, so I'm mentioning the stream, and we're sort of referencing things that we did because you can watch the VODs of the stream on both our YouTube channels, on Remember 64 and on Jiggy Look Back. But I'm also playing the replay in the video version of this podcast, so you guys can check that out as well. So if we're referencing anything and all that, just know that there's a video version, but we're gonna try and keep it so that everybody can kind of follow along, so it's not just a visual medium here. But that's what we're referring to. It was good. It took us a few hours to get through the game. At least I think it was roughly 3 hours. Like you said, we stopped here and there and did a few things, some giveaways and things like that. But yes, I think it was funny because you've just blew through the first stage, and the video that I'm playing during this recording is my playthrough of it, which is probably super sloppy, and I'm probably walking in circles a million times. I'm pretty sure it took you about 20 minutes less just to do that first stage, at least.
Yeah, something ridiculous like
Which is
that,
what it should take to do the whole stage. So just a difference of approach there. It was a slow go for me. We did complete it, but it was a slow go for myself. So
there is the learning curve too. Like I knew
Yeah.
what I was getting into when we started playing this game. Like I knew kind of the rough idea of mechanics. So that's part of it too. You got to learn the gameplay and everything, and how the camera works, and how you use items, things like that,
Yeah.
which is not as straightforward as you think, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, exactly. And because during the stream and because we are sort of trying to record like a full episode and stuff here, there's a little bit of development stuff that we were going to mention sort of off the top. It began in 1999. Terraglyph Interactive Studios. I didn't recognize that game when I was kind of looking up the info, or recognize that studio when I was looking it up.
No, I'm gonna stop you right here
You
because one of my favorite things that you do in the show.
Yes.
Okay, you can't not say it. You gotta
Oh.
say we're busting out the history books. You gotta give the spiel.
How about this? How about, because you called me out and because I was not paying attention, it's going to be your turn this time. How about that, Jiggy? Why don't you tee up our history books section of the
Okay,
episode?
hold your thought. We're gonna continue right with your thought, but I'll set you up. All right, you ready?
Okay.
Let's bust out the history books, everyone. We're heading back to November of 2000.
I'm learning.
Okay,
Perfect.
so development began on this on this game in the fall of 1999. Terraglyph Interactive Studios was in charge of making this. Announced a few months later in roughly May of 2000. I couldn't get an exact day or anything like that, but May of 2000. And 3 levels based on 3 episodes of the original Scooby-Doo Where Are You series. So that's the classic, when you think of classic Scooby-Doo, old school Hanna-Barbera style. I think they were all made in the 60s, maybe late 50s when they started, but really classic Hanna-Barbera stuff. And this is what all the stages are based around, or all the levels in the game are based around. So what a night for a night, AKNIGHT. That's Snow Ghost. A Tiki Scare is No Fair. And then they said that they were going to come up with a 4th level that was featuring an original story. So a pretty good, I would say a pretty good selling point. I think that's kind of cool to be like, look, if you are someone that recognizes these cartoons, which for me, if I was following the development of this game and knew that it was coming out in 99, 2000, I would have been actually pretty excited because I grew up watching this show. I don't remember exactly which ones I watched or whatever, but I had, for us, this is a little sort of story about how satellite and cable TV and things like that worked in the late 90s and mid 90s and early 2000s and stuff for where I lived, and also being in Canada. I lived in an area where cable was not possible. We did not have the infrastructure in the area that I was in. Okay. So it was only bunny ears. That's all I had until a legal satellite came along. So I had access to DirecTV. My parents are going to go to jail for me mentioning this. We had illegal access to everything on satellite of DirecTV in like the early to probably like 2000 to 2005, somewhere in there, right? For a few years.
Bro, that's got to be like 200 channels.
200, man, it was like 200 movie channels. I could watch a movie. I know specifically it was 99, 2000, 2001 at least is when 99 is when we started, because I remember watching The Matrix over and over and over again, because what they did was you'd have 3 different time zones playing the same movies. So at 10 a.m. it was the Eastern, and then it was Western, and then it was Central. I could literally stop watching The Matrix, click to the channel below it, and I could pick up like an hour into the movie and then do that all over again. And it was like, that's what I did with certain movies at that time. And I could go and I could watch stuff like Nick at Night, which I didn't know existed until that time.
Classic.
I had Nickelodeon, I had Cartoon Network, I had Nick at Night, I had Teletoon, and like all these other things that I could not access myself, and that's how I watched a lot of these shows. I grew up watching I Love Lucy with my parents because we had this. All these classic shows that they grew up with when they were kids, and this was one of them. So for me, if I knew this game was coming out, I would have been like, oh my god. Maybe I don't recognize what the name of these episodes were, but that's so cool that they're doing all this and then also coming up with an original one, which I think, we'll talk about sort of hit and miss of some of the stages and stuff. But anyways, that's my long story of I like this idea.
Yeah, it's cool. Scooby-Doo, arguably probably the most popular Hanna-Barbera cartoon.
Yeah.
I would say maybe,
sure.
Yeah, Flintstones probably close second.
Mm-hmm.
And then probably Jetsons, and then, or maybe like Yogi Bear or something. Like, but Scooby-Doo is definitely like a tier above everything else. I just feel like
I agree.
if you show Scooby-Doo, the majority of people, like no matter what generation, will be like, "Oh, that's Scooby-Doo." You know, where it's like we're even getting to the point with like Flintstones, where people are probably like, I don't know, like Gen Z. If you ask a Gen Z, like if they don't know who freaking Jesus is, if you hold up a picture, I don't think they're gonna know who Fred Flintstone is. You know, like it's wild.
Well, and
I've seen
also
some crazy
too,
videos.
well, and then when you, yeah, really, when you look at like how they've been updated, I guess over the years as well. The Flintstones had a couple of movies, but they were all in the 90s, late 90s, early
Right.
2000s
Like
stuff. John
what is
Goodman
his
and all that
name?
stuff.
John
Yeah.
Goodman. Yeah, John
So I
Goodman.
grew up watching that first movie all the time because we had the VHS of it and it was like perfect age for me to watch it. Again, grew up watching stuff like Scooby-Doo and the Flintstones, so it's kind of perfect. But since then, as far as I know, it's been pretty quiet with brands like that. But Scooby-Doo has had several movies, TV shows that have been updated. And I feel like these episodes of these particular stages that they base this game on must have been ones that they knew, one, were popular, and two, probably just would have worked well.
Yeah.
Different
Well, I
locations
wonder.
helps. So yeah.
I wonder if they're like literally the first couple episodes of Scooby Doo, because I know the night is very early on Scooby Doo,
Mm-hmm.
like it's very early Scooby Doo, and like in my brain, in my recollection, like I remember the night, I remember the Tiki guy or the witch doctor, whatever he is.
Yeah, Witch Doctor. Yeah,
I did not remember the abominable snowman,
that's one
which
I
is
did
one of
remember
them.
for sure.
He
That's one I
did.
did. Yeah. So what a
One
night
that
for a
I
night
was
is.
missing.
What a night for a night's the first episode apparently.
Yeah, I figured.
From 1969. Yeah.
What the one I was really missing though was there's one in particular. He's got like a bowl head and has like a skull on the inside and it like lights up. Like
Oh, I don't know if I
he's a
recognize
very
that.
he's a very distinct Scooby Doo villain. He's
Okay.
one that I'm like, ah man, I wish they had him in here because he's like really creepy looking to me. But yeah, total classic Scooby Doo. Love. So I'm gonna tell you a Scooby Doo story right now.
Hey,
Um,
I told mine and it was about illegal satellite. I think you can tell a story.
yeah.
Go
So
for it.
this is
Your
this is
turn.
about my mother's ringtone.
Oh, okay.
My mother's ringtone. First off, the Scooby Doo theme, like the classic theme, is great. Love
Yes.
it.
Yes.
I think arguably better than the classic theme though is the What's New Scooby Doo theme, which I think was done by Simple Plan, the band Simple Plan. It's like that skater punk that I just love, and it's like, "What's new, Scooby Doo? They're coming after you." Like, just slaps. But that was like more like 2000 Scooby Doo.
Right.
Like, this is the classic like 60s, 70s. I think like late 60s is when Scooby came out. So
It says 69 to 78.
nice,
That's the original. Ran
nice.
during that time. Yeah.
But so that classic theme, my mother to this day has it as her ringtone.
Nice.
Um, So it's kind of like one of those things where if you want to hate a song, you put it as your alarm, right? So it's like that. Like I used to love this song, and then my mom put it as a ringtone, and my mom is the type of person that always has her phone on. She never puts it on vibrate. Like if I set a ringtone, my phone's always on vibrate. I'd never hear the ringtone
Same.
unless I
Same.
know that I need to hear it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So anyways, here's the nightmare story, if you will. We're at a funeral, and it's like a Catholic funeral. We're not personally Catholic. We're Christian, but we're not Catholic, right? So
Either
this is a
way, either way, I love where this is going already.
yeah. So it's a big mass. Okay, that's the moral of the story. It's a big
Sure.
mass. I've never been in mass before this, right?
Okay.
And so there's probably like 200 people in this funeral. Okay, it's packed, and we're like dead center in the pews, and we're sitting there, and all of a sudden I hear the bats, and my eyes get wide, my brother's eyes get wide, my dad like immediately just shoots his head over, like looking at my mom, and my mom like panics, right, and it starts playing. Scooby Dooby Doo, where are you? And she's like fumbling to get her phone out of her purse. Okay, she's like shaking like this, like and she pulls her phone out and she's like tapping her phone excessively, and it's not doing anything. Yes, I'm doing the tapping noise. Here you go, podcast. And so I like grab the phone, I turn it off. We're all like bright red. Everyone in every pew, if you can just picture this like an area view of us sitting there straight, every eye and head turned toward us. Every single one. They're all just like looking. It was so embarrassing. And yeah, so that's my mom's Scooby-Doo ringtone story.
You survived the nightmare to live the story, and that's all that matters at this point. So that,
Yep,
oh my God, that's
right.
hilarious. I had a feeling that's where it was going to go, but the fact that there was that many people too, and that setting
Oh, it was
is
packed.
just so funny. And when you're in a place like with lots of people, maybe it sort of muffles it a little bit, but when you're in a place like a large church, like or large enough church, it echoes too. Like, you know, if there's someone at the back, they're hearing
were
it.
great.
Oh yeah, cuckoos.
Oh.
That's amazing. And like of all songs, it's not just a ringtone, and it's not a movie theater. No, it's a church, and it's it's a fucking funeral.
If it was an alarm or something, it would have been better because it's just like, oh, sorry, my phone's on kind of a thing. But it was like the Scooby-Doo song was playing, and not only that, just the fact it took her, like, I had to shut it off because she could not. First, it's buried in her purse. She's a very like unorganized person. Sorry, Mom, but you are. And she's very unorganized. Couldn't get it out of her purse. Couldn't find it. Found it. And then like panicking so she can't turn it off. I'm just like, oh my gosh. It was just like the trifecta of suck.
Just perfect. Just perfect. So moral of the story is, everybody, put your phone on vibrate until you absolutely need the ringer. That's it.
Yes.
Just do it.
Yes.
Default. Just
there
default,
you
go. You know, it's just the way to go. I'm with you. That's what I do with mine too.
Don't put your family through the ringer at a funeral. Turn your ringer off.
Don't ring your family at the funeral. Just play it safe. Okay, quickly before we get into some of the stages and a little bit more info, I'm gonna splice in some of the clips of us talking about the game and stuff during the stream, because that was a lot of fun and very, like, you know, in the moment. We wanted to sort of talk about it as we were playing and as we finished stages, so you'll hear some clips from that as well. Okay, so little like sort of feels after the first mystery or chapter or whatever. I think going back to the worst area of that level is where I was like, okay, really? Like, really?
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not good. I just had fun with it because it's like, it's so ridiculous and it's such a different, like, gameplay wise. Like, there's nothing quite like it. It's very Resident Evil, but it's not. Oh gosh, he's here! Where am I even supposed to go? This was too early. It was too fast.
I just ran into him too.
It's probably the exact same spot.
I just wanted to mention that when I said that I didn't hear of Terraglyph before this, I think it's because they weren't around very long and didn't do much that would have been like in my wheelhouse. So first off, they had a PlayStation version of this game that was in development, but then was eventually canceled. So this is a game that came out on Game Boy Color and 64, and that's where it came out. Terraglyph was a gaming arm of the parent company, but they mostly created games meant for kids. They did this game on Windows. They did this on Windows. I even wrote this and I didn't even follow what I was saying. They did this on Windows with games like Hansel and Gretel, Tiny Toons, Rumpelstiltskin, and then a few more. So classic titles. Tiny Toon stuff is kind of fun as well. But other than that, they just did a couple Tiny Toons games for PlayStation, and that was it. That was pretty much all they did. So
it's kind of cool. I just looked him up because I'd never heard of Terraglyph either, and I was just like, so I know this game was published by THQ.
Yes.
I was trying to think of the word published, and I'm like, not produced. What is the word? But yeah, Terraglyph located in Schaumburg, Illinois, which is not too far from where I am originally from. I am from Wisconsin, though, but not Illinois.
Funny enough, Schaumburg is a town that would be about 5 minutes from where I grew up and about 20 minutes from where I live right now. There's a Schaumburg in the Toronto area. Yeah.
Really?
Yep. Yep. We used to play
I wonder
hockey
if
there
they're
all the time.
sisters.
Had people that
Oh,
I
you
went to school with.
stereotypical Canadian playing
Stereotype. Well, it
hockey.
was close by. Of course, we were going to play
Were you
the.
drinking your syrup too?
No, you don't drink the syrup. Yeah, and it has to be real syrup. None of that. None of that
Okay, no, no, no,
fake
no. On
stuff.
this, so maple syrup is a big thing in Wisconsin as well. Because
Good.
we're so
Nice.
close. We were
It's right
basically
there.
Canada.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah. Yeah.
basically Canada.
Yeah.
So I
100%.
can't, I'm just teasing you. Like,
No, I
yeah,
don't
we had the
care. I'll
same
take
thing.
it. I don't
We
care.
had the same thing. But I agree 100%. Like, it is a crime. If you go to the grocery store and you look at things like maple syrup, make sure it's actual maple syrup. Like,
Yes.
if it's not maple syrup, you're not, like, you can almost tell by the thickness. Like when you rotate that bottle, because they're often like see-through glass or like
Yeah.
plastic. If it's like liquidy, that's corn syrup.
Yep.
That's not the real deal. And if you're not getting the real deal, don't get it. It's not worth
Don't
it.
even bother. It's just water and sugar. It's not.
Yeah.
I mean, syrup is kind of just sugar, but there's a difference in flavor. I tell you.
Maple
There is a
syrup,
difference.
it has nutritional value. Like
Sure.
corn
Let's go
syrup
with
with
that.
sugar,
Sure.
no, not really. Although the only time I will say that it is acceptable to use that kind of syrup is if you go to McDonald's and you get one of those big breakfasts, okay? No, 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 listen.
But
Their
that's because you don't have a
pancakes are very
choice.
specific and they have like their own syrup and it's
Yes.
just it's junk, but it's good. So
It's probably because it's mixed with the Big Mac sauce or something. I bet that's probably what it is. That's probably what they did. That'd be my guess. Oh no, you froze. Oh no. Oh, you didn't freeze. You're back. Okay.
yeah, you froze on my end too.
We
I don't
both
know.
froze. Oh, okay. Well, everyone's going to hear that. That's fine. I don't care. Everyone can see and hear that if we want. Okay, so
That's funny.
we mentioned the old show and everything. All the models, everything that was in this was based off that original old school Scooby-Doo series. So other than that, let's talk about some of the stages. I mentioned before the first episode of the cartoon was What a Night for a Night, which was the first stage in this. And actually the last episode of the first season, which aired in 1970, was That Snow Ghost, which is the one with the abominable snowman and the
Oh, okay.
this winter level essentially. So they picked some early ones there. Did you have a favorite one? Was there one that you liked? Was it the first because you were so good at it, or?
I'm thinking in my head, I gotta remember, what was the fourth one, the last one?
The fourth one was the last one. That was, I think, what we both were saying during the stream ended up being, for me at least,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure was the least favorite because
Yeah, I
it wasn't
hated that one.
designed. It wasn't designed well. No.
I'm just working my way backwards. I hated
Yeah.
that one. The Tiki one, easy to get lost. The snow one was pretty good, but I think, I think the first one's just so. I don't know. It felt so complete. It felt like there was a lot to explore. There were different areas with different things going on, like a lot of variety.
Right.
So yeah, what a night for a night. I think. Plus, it also had the monster, right? He was in different locations,
Yes,
but he'd be
that's right.
waiting for you.
That's right.
Whereas like the other ones are kind of like in the open and you can see him, but he'd be
Right.
like hiding.
Yeah, he was
like-
like down the hallway at first, and then he was in another room later on, or something like that. Yeah,
He was like in there's like a room with like wax figures or something or statues, and he's like
yeah,
one of the
yeah.
statues, and then he starts chasing you. And also the sarcophagus opening in the Egyptian wing.
Yes.
That's iconic. I mean, it opens and he starts chasing you, and it's just cool. And a lot of the wings have different things. Like there's secret rooms to find. There's, like I said, there's the Egyptian wing. There's the dinosaur wing. Like that has.
Don't get me started on the dinosaur wing.
It was cool. It's frustrating to get through.
It's
though.
frustrating. Yeah.
But it is cool. Like the idea of it's really cool. But it just felt like there's a lot of variety in that one.
Yeah, I think as you're talking about and sort of talking about like how things are out in the open and stuff like that, I'll get into detail of sort of why. I don't know. I think I've struggled to figure out if the snow one or the first one, like the first or the second one, was my favorite, because the first I enjoyed because it was the first one. You're introduced to things, even though you are all in one location. There is variety, like you said. I think that's key for
Mm-hmm.
sure. And all the things you just said, I completely agree. I think you're on point for sure. Something about the second one I kind of liked, even though there were different locations, it was more spread out. But also because it was more spread out, maybe it was like less focused almost. And this is the same thing I go back to, and I'm going to be talking about much newer games now, but the reason why in the Arkham Asylum games I enjoy Arkham Asylum more than I enjoy the other ones is because it's more focused and you're in this one location trying to sort of figure out the puzzles and defeat the enemies and stuff in this on an island essentially. And the first stage in this game is kind of like an island. It's just the museum. And then when you go and give yourself more space, like you do in the second and third and fourth stages in this Scooby-Doo game, it's almost like they have to fill space because you're in a larger thing, and none of that feels all that impactful. So I kind of like the self-contained stuff that happened in the museum, even though that dinosaur room is a pain in the ass. I probably no, I'm trying to convince myself here that it's not the first one, but it probably is the first stage. Yeah.
You know what? You know what's interesting about the first stage too? It's the only stage that has a secondary, not monster, but secondary chase sequence. Like you can get that security guard and he'll chase you out. Which I think is just super interesting because none of the others have that. It's exclusively the monster every other time.
Yeah.
Uh,
The disadvantage to that and just the game in general, but I think it was more evident in the first stage, which is why maybe the dinosaur level was ended up being a pain in the ass to me, is the way that the camera works. That's where the issue lies. I think we said that multiple times while we were playing through it. It's like it has those fixed cameras like the first couple of Resident Evils did, where you walk around a corner and the camera's up in the top left corner of that room. You sort of walk towards that camera and then it switches, and then now the camera is behind you instead of in front of you. But then that also changes like what direction you have to use the joystick, and
it's like you hold forward and you're running forward, and then the camera angle changes, and you're holding forward, but you're actually moving to the right.
Yeah.
But it's like it's bizarre. It's hard to explain, but anybody who's played an old school like Resident Evil tank controls kind of a game with those fixed camera angles will know exactly what I'm trying to say here.
Yeah.
And it just describing the game, the gameplay, Resident Evil without weapons is pretty much what it is.
Yeah, it kind of what it is. You know, it's pretty simplistic. You're going and you're finding things, and you're maybe looking for some clues and stuff that'll sort of guide you to what other room you might need to go to and stuff like that. I think if we weren't playing this at the same time together, maybe I would have benefited from like putting a couple notes down and be like, oh, I found this here and there was a clue for this. Because if you are walking in circles a little bit, regardless of what stage it is, you might forget that you found a key for this and then there was a locked door in a different section, especially on the larger stages. And then there's other parts where I think it was in the Tiki level where you had to do a sequence of 1, 2, 3, 4, but it was like 3, 1, 4, 2 or something like that to open up
4, 3, 2, 1. I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
It could have been, yeah.
I'm just pulling from my memory. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. I like ingrained that into my mind.
Yeah, but it was like you found that info in a completely different area, and a decent amount of stuff could happen in between that you'd forget. Again, it's just an older design choice and stuff. For the most part, I think it works, but it's just, I don't know. It's just okay. Like it's not a bad game. It's just frustrating in parts where I wish it wasn't because of the controls.
Yeah, for me, I think the biggest flaw of this game is actually Scooby himself.
Oh yeah, right.
Because I can forgive like the camera angles and stuff, especially it's an early 3D. I was gonna say platformer. It's not a platformer. An early 3D kind of adventure detective game. I don't know. It's simple, but it works. But Scooby is, as much as I love having him there, they put collision on him and he can like physically block you, which is detrimental if you're running away from a boss. And I'm pretty sure that happened to me several times while I was like playing. I'm just like screaming because Scooby turns sideways in a hallway and I'm stuck and I just die because I can't get past him. and you can't get him to move.
Yeah. Yeah.
Coincidentally, you could probably use that to your advantage because he also has collision with the monsters. So you could use him to like block it if you're clever enough, but I was
Well,
not clever enough. I
yeah,
just
because you're running around as Shaggy or as the duo, and Scooby's following you and stuff.
right.
But and I get that. You're not going to have this game where just one of them, like they are a duo. They always have been. They always will be.
Right.
Totally fine. I understand that. But yeah, the problem is it's like he's there and that's fine. But all he needs to do is be there. He doesn't need to do anything in particular for you. So just let the collision be. I don't know, in the middle of his body, but you can walk through his butt or his head. Like, who cares, you know?
Yeah.
Like, put something there. I think that's fine. But they just went with like full collision. His nose is in the
His
way.
whole body,
His
yeah.
whole body, and some
Think
areas
of
are
it
tight.
like think of it like a giant rectangle that's standing in front of
Yeah.
you constantly.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it is.
Well, it's exactly probably what the modeling is, right? It's probably they got a rectangle, a couple sticks, and that was it. And they're like, okay, well,
Basically.
that's what you bump into, right?
There's his hitbox.
Exactly, that's a hitbox. Yeah, exactly. I think that I think we had a good time playing it. I think, but largely it was mostly because I think we were joking around and playing it together. I mean, honestly, that's really what it comes down to. So,
Because once you reach that last level, that fourth story,
mm-hmm.
it's a maze. It's a
Oh my
maze.
God.
You gotta find specific items. You gotta look very carefully, and you gotta find where to use those items. I mean, it was a tough one. I powered through it, finished the game, but that was a tough one. I will say though, the final boss, the original boss, the design for him, scary.
Yeah.
I mean, like
Yeah.
Scooby-Doo villains, you're like, okay, wow. Like you start off with a knight and he's not very scary as
No.
far as design. I mean, it's kind of cool how he clanks when he runs at you, but the Abominable Snowman is not scary at all. The Tiki guy is kind of scary looking because he's like his mask is a little creepy and you can kind of see it in the distance. And he's fast. He's very fast.
Super fast. I remember these. What is this guy's on?
He's
guy's
like
literally
faster
on speed.
than the others.
Like,
yeah, exactly. But the last guy is like straight up horror villain. Like,
right.
Very
I totally
looking.
forgot that. I mean, it's crazy that I forgot, but I completely forgot that I didn't actually finish the game because I could not figure out where to go, what to do. I was missing, and I know you were doing this too. You're kind of running in circles looking for like a one last item kind of thing. But I think I stopped. I stopped and I just watched your stream at some point instead because I was like, I just basically decided like, you know what, focus on it. You're towards the end. Just keep going. I'm not going to run around in circles for the next 45 minutes because that's all I was doing for the last hour or something and it felt like I was getting nowhere, and it was so hard to figure out which direction you were going because of the camera and because the maze area that you were in, which people can see
literally a maze,
which people can see on the video version here, is just bricks and some tiki torches or whatever, things around you. And that's kind of it. There's a couple markers, like things on the wall that kind of tell you maybe you're in this, but it was so hard to tell which way to go that I couldn't. And it's a shame because I do like Scooby-Doo. I like the brand. I like the characters. I thought that the sort of simple but goofy but still entertaining writing was fine. The music was fine. It's just they made that last stage too complex and too dark that there wasn't enough for me to tell what I needed to do. And there was no hints. It's not like you could press a button and be like, hey, have you checked, I don't know, the room on the east side of the building, or you know what I mean? Like something like that. And
I think if Fred, though, you have to turn in your clues and your trap items. Like you give Fred a hanky and he goes, oh, I could use this for a trap, right?
Oh, I could use this to wipe my ass.
Yeah, he just takes whatever you give him, right? But if they would have had it so you talk to him and he'd say, I think you need to find one more clue.
Yeah.
If you said something like that, and then maybe like they could have used the rest of the gang in like a more clever way. Like maybe Velma suggests something to you or like a tip or something, and Daphne's like, I think I might have seen something in the East Wing, or like, you know what I mean? Like something like that I think would have helped round this game out. But the only way I persevered this was with my life statement, my mantra, if you will, which is I don't quit and I don't run and I will be Hokage. Believe it.
Well, at least one of us has that, because I honestly, I wanted to do it, man. Like, I know we said we were going to. It was the goal of the evening when we did the stream, and I oh my god, I was just running around for 5 minutes and I just ended up like in the exact same place that I started. Like, I don't know, where am I going?
Yeah, you're just plain lost. Yeah, me too. There's like nothing here. I can't find anything.
This is driving me nuts. I can't Okay, pardon my French. I can't fucking figure out where I'm going right now. It's really pissing me off. I'm in these dark fucking hallways and I have no idea where to go. I've no goddamn clue what my next step is. Oh, I let you down, man. I let you down. I was gonna say I let myself down, but I think I let you down a little bit. It's okay.
It's all good.
It's all good. And you know what? It's up until that point, I think it's still worth going through and playing this game. Like, I do think that it is pretty decent. It's not one of those games where it's like, oh, just avoid it. There's better ones like this. There probably are, but there's not like there's an endless amount of Scooby-Doo games with this kind of like art style, aesthetic, personality. Like,
one thing it does well is the graphics and the aesthetic. Like, it looks really good.
It does.
For a 64 game, it's clean. It looks nice.
Exactly. It's not like some of the later 64 games that aren't so great that you're like, oh, this came out in 99, or oh, this came out in 2000. This was built in 99 and 2000, and it kind of looks like it. It does look better. Mm-hmm. It's like, sure, you're walking through hallways that are bricks and the bricks all look the same. Okay, so what? Doesn't matter, right? But it all makes sense still, especially in the other stages where there's more variety. Like, this is kind of the only area that kind of looked the same. Every other stage, every other area within those stages felt and looked different, and you could differentiate them and be able to find a way around a lot easier. It was really just this one spot, and a lot of the time at this time they didn't do that, or they didn't have the opportunity to do that. So I think it worked, and it's kind of cool to see. For me, when they, like, Space Jam's a perfect example. When they take
Space Jam.
When they take the original Space Jam, or even the original animation of Looney Tunes, and put it into the most recent Space Jam, it just doesn't feel the same. There's something about that semi 3D animation that just, I don't know. The look and feel just isn't there anymore. And I think this game it strikes a good balance of those two things, where it feels like the old ones, but they put them in 3D models, and I think it still pays off.
Yeah. like Dragon Ball Z has been doing with their like last couple movies, like kind of like 2D. It's almost, it looks 2D, and then they'll do something where it's 3D and you're like, oh yeah, it's 3D. But like if you look front on, it looks like the 2D character model, right?
Yeah.
Like Shaggy's face. Like if you look at him from the front and from the side, he looks like Shaggy from the cartoon. But then he moves, and then you're like, whoa. Yeah, he's 3D.
There's depth to it and stuff. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so again, is this the greatest game ever? No. Is it the greatest adventure game ever?
Absolutely.
No. But you know what? I think it's a good time. It's fun that we played it around spooky season, and I think it sort of fits that. And if you do, I mean, you could pull up some tips and stuff like that as you play through it. I don't think that would really take away from your experience all that much, because there is still some skill involved with some of the chases and things like that. So if you have a hard time finding stuff, it's not bad to do that. But you know, this time next year, or you know, spooky season next year, you want to look for like a retro game to play around that time. You could do a whole lot worse than this, and you can get through this within a few hours, and probably not regret it. I think there's something there, even if there's small things that are frustrating.
Yeah, I'd say this game probably runs about 3 hours. I think. Yeah. We got stuck. I think my max time was probably about 3 hours, even getting stuck. So I'd almost challenge, like, play this with your friends. Like, have a night, just sit there and like hang out and eat junk food and do something and just play this game because it's pretty funny. Like,
Yeah.
it's one of
Yeah.
those games that's just silly. It's just fun to go in and not take too seriously and just persevere. Like, don't look up a guide. Don't look up how to walk through this game. Like, I personally, like, it's not so hard that it's impossible to finish if you don't have a guide. You know, it's not like finding the Korok seeds in Zelda. It's like you'll get
Yeah.
through it. It's just it takes a lot of exploring. And the
Yes.
maps aren't like terribly big. I think the Tiki one is probably the biggest just because
It's
it's
a
so
little too
empty.
big. Yeah, a little too big.
The
Yeah.
the last one is not like as big, but it's very confusing because it's got lots of rooms
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of got to walk through mazes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a solid game. If I had to give it a score, I'd probably give it like a 6.5 out of 10.
Yeah,
Like
I'm
somewhere in
gonna
that range.
yeah, I'm gonna give probably like a 5.5 or a 6, somewhere around there. Just because I got more frustrated with it than you did, but otherwise I'm on par. Like I agree with all the stuff. Like we're on the same page with everything else. So, but that's about it. Yeah, that's Scooby-Doo and the classic Creep Capers. Check it out, especially around spooky season. If you're hearing this around that time, worth a shot. I think go back and there's a. I wish there was another version of this, but it seems like Game Boy Color and 64, and that's it. So I don't know. Maybe next year I'll pull out the Game Boy version and see what the differences are. But always fun to kind of see it in like a different light or literally a different angle. So
For sure.
but that'll pretty much do it for the episode, everybody. Hopefully if you want, you can check out the video version of this. You can check out the VODs of my stream and Jiggy's stream. And we're also playing along with Deadforge as well. He played the first stage or two, and then eventually popped off and just sort of was on our stream, just chatting as well. But it was fun to have all three of us, which was kind of cool because he was popping in and checking both of our progress, and we were kind of talking about the game as we went. But he's got awesome stuff too. So
did you play this with your EverDrive?
I did play this with the EverDrive. Yes.
Yeah. So you played it with the EverDrive. He played it straight up emulation, and I played the actual physical cartridge. And I think, I mean, he got, it was really funny, like totally worth going back because he was playing and he's like, my laptop just can't handle this game.
Yeah.
It started chugging. And like, I looked at his stream, he must have been playing it at like 12 frames per second.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, what are you doing?
It could be one of those things though, honestly, where the the ROM version, it is not great. Like,
yeah.
If anyone hasn't listened to the Indiana Jones episode or watched the Indiana Jones episode that I recently did, that's a game that was known to constantly crash in ROM form at the end of the first stage. So like 15 minutes into the game, it would load like sort of a quote unquote cutscene to get into the next stage, and the game would just stop playing. The emulation would just crash. And it was like, I could not find a way to play it. Luckily, like I said in the episode, there's a version out on Steam and Good Old Games, so there is a way to play it now, and that's how I played it. But it could be one of those things as well where it's not necessarily your device; it could just be one of those games that was very difficult to emulate, and that happens.
Yeah, that's true.
And something like the EverDrive, like I have, or obviously if you have the actual game, but something like the EverDrive kind of finds a better way to make that work. And I played when we were playing it, I had zero issues whatsoever. So. So three very different experiences, or three somewhat different experiences.
What I'd say to people is like, well, if you have an EverDrive, obviously use the EverDrive because the EverDrive is amazing. But if you want to pick up this game, this is a cheap one. This is like arguably one of the cheaper games on the 64 library. I think I picked mine up for like $10.
Yeah, I've seen it at my local store, which the Canadian prices are always just like a couple of dollars difference. I think it was 15 or 16. So that's, you'll get it for $20 or less. $20 or less, maybe 25. I think either way, that's worth it. So
if you look at it, that's like $5 an hour of enjoyment. You
could do a lot worse.
So you could do a lot worse than that.
Way,
like I
way
said,
worse.
it'd be fun. Make a couple Sammys. Get some people over, make some Sammys, and try to emulate how they make it in the game because those mini games are hilarious.
Yes, we didn't really talk about that, but it's kind of funny. It's like the way you sort of get your health in the middle of it. There's always a kitchen in every stage, and there's that classic like Shaggy opens his mouth like really huge and has this giant sandwich. I think it's a fun little sort of light moment in each stage.
The it's just awesome. It's like you catch You're shaky, you move left to right, and you catch sandwich pieces that Scooby's throwing out of the fridge, and
Yeah.
you just stack the sandwiches as high as you can. It's kind of addicting,
It is
actually.
it is kind of cool. Like if you could do it a couple times in a row and stuff, it's no big deal. Like it's kind of fun to do it.
Yeah.
And it's very different from the rest of the game, which is funny too. So anyways, so I mentioned that the streams are on there. Jiggy, let's talk about your YouTube channel because you don't just have live streams of Scooby-Doo. You got a lot of other awesome stuff out there.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Make a lot of content here. We're actually getting close to partner here. So I'm very very close to the YouTube requirements. So if I have another
Yeah.
video that somewhat takes off, I'll be a YouTube partner, which is amazing, and it's been a goal that I thought was nigh unreachable. I
Mm,
don't know if I used that word right, but nigh.
sure.
Um but yeah, just seeing the channel grow as it has, and especially in the last, I had something crazy. I had like 2,000 hours watch time this last month,
Amazing.
and it's just blowing up, man. And I make I make content. A lot of N64 content. Obviously, that's how Dave and I first connected. N64, Donkey Kong 64. But I've been covering a lot of GameCube stuff, and I'm gonna continue that for a little while. Dreamcast. Like I cover just about everything
Yeah.
in within different series, game series, things like that. So it's a lot of fun, and if you love, I'm having a hard time describing it. It's because I do different things. I have game comparisons like within sequels, like a specific game, like Banjo Kazooie versus Banjo Tooie. Which one do I think is better and why?
Right.
And people argue tooth and nail about which one is better. And it's okay if you disagree with me, but don't be toxic about it, which some people are,
There you
which
go.
blows my mind. But that, and then like videos that are like kind of like game theory esque, where I overthink it. I just go
Literally, it's called
through,
overthink.
just find like I'm so proud of the Lon Lon Milk one. There's one I just did on explaining Lon Lon Milk from Zelda, and it was just so over the top and so stupid. And I went down like 20 different rabbit holes to explain why this milk is amazing and magical. And it was just it's great. I animated so many things. Like it's just a lot of fun. Just go check out the content. It's a blast.
It's Jiggy Look Back on YouTube, and honestly, it's not even just like, oh, just go check it out because it's a video. It looks good. You do good work. It looks really slick. It moves awesome. Like you're great at the editing and
Thank you.
everything. So I think that's actually a huge bonus. It takes a lot of work to do that, and I think and I see what you make, and I'm just like, man, if only I had the skills and the time. And I wish. It looks good. It's great. So it's something.
I'll
to
tell you
check
the
out,
secret.
you
I'll
know.
tell you the secret. Okay, first off, for the skills, I went to school for this. So
Yeah.
I went to
Okay.
school for video and motion graphics. But as far as the time, it's just, how people sleep at night?
No, I mean,
Yeah.
depends on the day.
I was like, just don't do that.
Just don't.
Just don't. That's how you have the time. It's easy. People just haven't figured that out. I
What?
figured it out, Coffee is
Wait,
great. Coffee's my best friend.
people sleep. I don't understand. I don't understand this concept of closing your eyes and waking up several hours later. What a waste of time.
Yeah, what a waste of time. You're way more productive if you just stay up. It's like Elf. If I do sleep, I wake up and I'm like, I feel great. I got a full 45 minutes and I had time
Yeah.
to build that rocking horse.
So I think I maybe used to be able to do that, but not so much anymore. But I try. The point is, it's really good stuff, and people should check it out for sure. And I'll say that the YouTube channel for Remember 64 is just Remember 64. It's Remember-64, but I think if you search it anyways, it still shows up.
Yeah, it pops up.
Yeah,
You'll know.
Yeah. So there's videos like this you can sort of check out anytime that I've recorded us having a chat about games. It's up there. I'll have gameplay videos as well. And as of this recording, I should be 1 or 2 segments in to playing a new Nintendo 64 game, or Nintendo 64 inspired game called Cavern of Dreams, which is very much a it's much more Banjo-Kazooie than it is Donkey Kong 64, but it's a 3D platformer with hub world and all these different stages where there's collectibles instead of jiggies and notes that you're picking up. You're picking up mushrooms and eggs. I've gone through the first. As of this release, it's going to be 1 or 2, but check out the YouTube channel to sort of see the playthrough. I am sitting there and playing it instead of doing it live. I'm recording it at times that I have time to, so you'll have my commentary with it as well. And then, of course, remember 64 on all the podcast feeds. If you're already listening to this, you probably already know that. And if you're already listening to this, tell a friend. That's pretty much it. That's how it goes.
And talk about the Patreon. What can I get, Dave?
What can you get? You can get all of the episodes, every single episode, some of the video versions as well, most of the video versions early, including my playthroughs of Cavern of Dreams as well. I'm putting those up early. And if you sign up, you also get a chance to get a holographic Remember 64 sticker mailed to you, which Jiggy has right now and is holding up to his camera.
I'm trying to get it in focus here
it's roughly
it's
there.
for the kids.
It's for the kids.
Where is it? Come on.
I have a boat.
There it is. Oh. I don't think it likes. I don't think the camera likes the material.
I think
it's like
the shiny holographic part. Yeah. I have a handful to still give. So any new signups, we'll get those and I'll mail them off for you free of charge. And that's pretty much it. That's Patreon. That's Remember 64, Jiggy Look Back, and that is Scooby-Doo. Everybody, thank you very much for joining us once again on Remember 64. And Scoobs, we'll talk to you next time.
Ree.